experienced engineer because I don't know how to reboot this. I'm from Maxgeo. Yeah, it's not good.
Brilliant. What do you do now? Yes. Okay. What did you say your name is? Brilliant. Brilliant. You're the one you're not giving a talk, right? No. I'm just getting to answer questions for all of that. Okay, Maxgeo. Oh, you're asking. We do. Oops. We do solar-based and automation software for the mining industry. Yes. Software too. We connect, validate,
Hello, good afternoon. We wait a couple of minutes.
Still not very good.
Come, would you like to share your screen?
Hello, can you hear me?
We cannot see it.
Okay, let's see. I'm trying to sort out my screen. Oh, she joined. Hello, how are you, everyone?
Hello, Camo, I can see you. Would you like to share the screen or you're going to speak like this?
I'm gonna try and share my screen, but I'm not sure where do I go to share my screen because I've joined via browser. Oh, share screen. It's in green. Okay. Hey, window. Let me see. Okay, let me know if you can see my screen. Sure. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone.
Okay, I
My
will
name.
and then I will mute myself and we'll let you the presentation.
Okay.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Geotalks. Tonight, the guest is Maxgeo, that is represented by Camugelo Malepe, that is online via Zoom. And then here in the audience, we have Mano and Ryan, that they are going to be able to connect with us. So the presenter, Camugelo, is a SACNASP registered geologist with experience within the mining industry, having worked with mining houses such as South Deep Gold Mine and Stibaniad Silwater. She has extensive experience in geological database management, resource geology, and engineering geology. And she has worked for database management for the last 3 years. The presentation today is about the importance of geological database management in the mining industry. We thank you, Camo, and the floor is for you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that introduction. So as she has said, I'll be taking you guys through the importance of geological database management and what exactly is a database management. My colleague is in the audience. I believe Mano is there. So unfortunately, I couldn't make it in person, but she can have the interaction with you guys for any questions you might have later on. And you'll be able to answer most of the question after. So what I'll be doing today, I'll be telling you what is a database, basically, just the basic term of what a database is. Why is geological database management important, especially in the mining industry?
Please speak louder, because we can hear very little. So if you could speak just a bit louder, thank you. Or closer to the mic.
Let me get my headphones. Maybe you'll hear me better.
Thank you.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, we can. Just continue, but speak slower and louder. Thank you.
I'll try and do that. I'm trying to get back to the screen. Stop sharing. Okay. I will start sharing again. Okay, now you can hear me, I'm hoping.
Yes, good, thank you.
Okay, no worries. Like I said, I'll be taking you guys through what is database, why is geological database management important, benefits of effective geological database management, the challenges that are faced within the geological database management space, the best practice out there, and what we offer as Maxgeo company, and just some conclusion on everything else. Basically, a database is a structured collection of data that is stored in a computer so that you can interrogate to get answers. Like your computer, you can just go there and type, what is the weather for today, get all the information. It's the same thing as a database. So there are different types of databases. You have your flat database, which is basically a one large file or one large table, more like your Excel sheet. You just have your Excel sheet where it has everything. And your relational database, which is a collection of data items organized to basically be able to correlate the data from one another. So relational database, basically what you can do is that you are in the field, you have drilled some data, somebody in the field has drilled boreholes. So what they've done is that those boreholes now are back on site. Somebody has to sample. So you sample those boreholes. So with the relational database, as you capture that data, you're able to say the samples are from this borehole. So you can relate them by the whole ID. So basically a relational database is for a way for you to be able to relate the data from one tab to the next one. And then the importance of why geological database management. We all know that it all starts with data. Geological data is an extremely valuable strategic asset used to make profitable business decisions based on the quality of our data. And we all understand that geological data forms like a very part of the guide and business decision made across the whole mining value chain. But in most cases, you find that most companies don't value the data or underestimate the data. So the importance of you having the geological database management is to make sure that you ensure that the data that is being collected is very accurate and reliable. So they're able to trust your data and it reduces any error. Any data that you enter in the database is being validated. You are able to check if there are any errors. It also helps you with giving you confidence in your resource estimation because you trust your data. You are able to interrogate it and see where the data is coming from, who has entered the data, if there has been any changes in it. And it also helps you with enhancing your exploration efficiency. For instance, in South Africa, if you go to Council for Geoscience right now as a geologist and say you're looking for a map from Daniel Scale in Northern Cape or a map somewhere in Mpumalanga, you're able to get that data because they have a large database of all that data. So having a database helps you with that. Let's say it's a mining industry, you have started mining. For instance, if you follow in with the mining community, what's happening, Orion wasn't mining at some stage, you stopped mining, and then now they're starting their project again. So if they have a database in place, what they do is that they go back to the historical data to see what they had in that data, what data they got, where did they drill the last time, which areas did they target the last time. So now they're able to plan efficiently on where are they gonna drill their boreholes and which places they need to focus on. And it also helps with supporting your decision making, such as your resource allocation. Now you are able to know that I'm gonna now drill in this section because I've seen with the previous historical data that there's more data here or less data. So I need to have more confidence in this area. It also helps you with your planning. You don't just plan blindly because now you have more information from the historical data that has already been there. And it also helps with your investment. So you don't end up just investing in areas that might not even benefit you at the end for your resources or any of your estimations in the future. The benefits of effective geological database management. It improves your resource estimation. As I've mentioned that if you have your data, what the importance of it is that the data that you have captured, you can actually track it to see who has made changes, what changes have been made, when was the data analyzed. For instance, let's say the process with the data collection, especially in the geology fields or mining field, you go to underground, you plan the hole. So you got all the planned hole coordinates and every data, you capture that data in your database. And then you drill the hole and now you get new coordinates. After you drilled your hole, you are able to sample that hole, send it to the lab, you get your assays. Your assays are the results that are going to be used in your resource estimation. So if the resource team are more confident in your data and are able to see that there hasn't been any data manipulation or any human errors in it, they have more confidence in it in their estimation for the investors. It also increases your operational efficiency. You are able to see that, okay, last year, this is where they planned. You are able to use those coordinates and say, this is where they planned. This time around, let's focus more on this area because we have less confidence in this area than we do on the other side because we have more data. And it also helps with regulatory compliance and reporting. In South Africa, there's a lot of reporting such as Geotalks and SAMREC. So with the database management, what it helps you is that when you are complying to that, because you can track who has made changes, when were the changes made, is your data validated? Are you not manipulating the data? They're able to audit you back and say, okay, we do trust your data that you're not actually manipulating the investors. You're complying to the rules that we have in the country. You are complying with SAMREC or JOG reporting. And it also helps you with your long-term sustainability and planning because whatever data you have used historically in your planning or your drilling, you still have that data in your database. You are able to go and query your database and say, can I have data from 2010 or 2009 to just see how is the data, if there has been any changes. And the good thing with having a geological database management is that you can also ensure that certain people have access to it and there are certain people who don't have access to it. So you are able to limit accessibility of that data and how many people can make changes and how many people cannot make changes in that data. And the other good thing with the benefits of having a geological database management is the fact that you don't have to manipulate the data. For instance, if you are drilling your data, instead of actually capturing it on an Excel sheet where you can make errors, you can actually capture it in a database. For instance, data shed, what we have in Maxgeo, you can capture it in a database where then you capture everything is captured and you don't have to go back and sit down and capture again. From it being captured there, you send everything to the lab, they analyze it, and you can automate the result from the lab to come straight into your database. And then you have QAQCs, which are your quality control and quality analysis in place to say that your data has passed or failed. So you are able to sustain that going forward. Then you know that your data is safe and reliable. The challenges, though, in geological database management, like any other technology, is that, for instance, if you get into a new mining company where they don't have a database in place, they're using Excel. So there's all this different Excel spreadsheet that everybody has with different versioning, is that your data quality and validation might not be correct. So you're trying to validate that data to see where they got the data. You find that one of your colleagues has a different version of Excel than the one that you have. So you're not sure which data can be validated or which data is actually the latest data. And then integration of diverse data source. You find somebody, when they do their mapping, they rather map on a notebook or use Excel, depending on how a person prefer, which method they prefer if there's no database in place. So everybody does what works best for them, as long as at the end they can give a report. So integrating those data sources at the end of the day, it comes up with issues of the quality of the data, or actually referencing back to previous data that you have, and the security and confidentiality. It's very easy to share your Excel spreadsheet. If data is captured in an Excel spreadsheet, I can copy that Excel spreadsheet and share it with somebody else. So you don't have that security and confidentiality in your data, and anybody can make changes in your spreadsheet. Anybody can come and make changes and say, this is actually where you mined, this is how much the grade is. It's not actually 3 grams per ton, it's 0.3. They can make those changes, and at the end of the day, it goes back to the quality of your data. It might not be good. Is it auditable? Can the auditors actually trust it? Is it actually complying to the rules and regulation and standards that are set in South Africa? And the other issues you would have with geological database management is the technology infrastructure. Every database management, there's systems in place that are needed prior to it being implemented. Most companies will say we don't have the infrastructure for it. The good thing is that in Maxgeo, we can actually have it for you and hold it on the cloud server for you. But sometimes you do get to an issue where people don't have the infrastructure for it. And then you have the data silos where the data now is just all over the place. You can't actually relate your data, your samples or your host to what's happening, because everybody's using a different version of data management for what they have. And the manual capturing as well, where you can have errors. Let's say, for instance, you go underground, you're capturing on an Excel sheet or on a book or a notebook. We love our notebook as geologists. So we're underground, we're mapping, and then we're maybe they're also drilling at the same time, or the drillers are drilling. So you have to get the drill log. So they capture the whole ID as 0012, and only to find that the hole is actually 012. Not 00. So you also have those errors that can happen. And then now when you have to validate the data, you find that it doesn't correlate to what you actually planned. This now becomes a new hole that you can't actually assign any assays to it or any sampling in it. So there are different practices of geological database management that are there, but the best practices that usually, if you go around and researching, even with various database companies, it would be your data standardization and quality assurance. Your data should be standardized, that there's a format and there's like a SOPs, standard operating procedures in place to say this is how we do the data. And this is, you will have documents in place to say this is how we do the data, this is how we capture the data. Our database management has validations in place. You have to have your whole IDs, your data set or your project. You have to be able to say, this is where the project is, this is the whole IDs within those projects that we have done. And then you have quality assurances as well. For instance, when you are sampling as a geologist, you have what we call KQC in place. KQC basically is just your quality assurance and quality control. You have your CRMs, your certified reference material, which would be a material that you know the value of, and your blanks, which would be just a material that has no gold or no value in the field that you're mining. So you will have those in place to say that this would determine if our samples pass or they fail. So that's what you would do as a company. You'll have standardization for all your geological database management, how you do it and how you're going to do it, and everybody has to follow that. This helps going forward with saving money and saving time, and also avoiding data silos. The integration of geological and geospatial data. Geological database management is always good when you can actually take the data out of the database to another form of database. For instance, you can take data out of datashed and then use it in GIS without you having to manipulate the data. That's the best practices that you can look for in a geological database management, and the regular backups and security measures. Like I said earlier on, that with database management, the other good thing and benefits of it is that you can actually regulate and see who uses what. You can actually give certain people permissions to use certain data and certain people permissions to just view the data. You can set up people to say, you're just the loggers, all you have to do is log the data, and there'll be people who can edit the data, and there'll be people who would be the administrators who can actually do all the changes, validate the data, make sure that everything is correct before they approve the data to go forward. So you're able to do that with the security measures in place. The regular backups, this helps you with, for instance, if you are mining, you have a new project that came in, what you can do is that you can back up that data. Let's say as a company, you are required to back up the data every 2 weeks. You back up your data, and you always have a recent backup. In case anything happens to the system, you have the recent data in your backup. You can always restore it and say, this is the data, which is things that you cannot do if you're just using Excel spreadsheet or Word document. God forbid there's an incident in the mine, it catches fire, so you lose all those files. But having a database in place, you are able to say, I have the backup of the database from 2 weeks back. We haven't made any changes for the past 2 weeks. This is the database, and then you can actually restore it and see if there has been any for the past previous 2 weeks, or whenever the last time you captured data, has there been any changes. Training and capacity building. You're able to train your people. Every geological database consultant or company out there, when they implement a new geological database management, they would actually train you as users to be able and capable to use that system in place. So what we do now, we are actually trying to build people we enable you to be able to use the software by yourself, to use the system by yourself. Collaboration and communication, not only between the team, but you can also collaborate with planners, production geologists. You can actually take out a report for them to just show production geologists or production mining people, to just show them, this is where we have mined recently, this is how much grade we have gotten with the assay result. And it also makes it easier to communicate with not just people, but with other softwares. Like I said, you can actually integrate it with GIS and just get all the data that you want. So with Maxgeo, Maxgeo, basically what it does, we are able to do all that, and we manage the entire life cycle of drill hole and point data. As you know, as a geologist, you start from planning the borehole. You're planning your drill hole, where you want to drill, whether it's going to be surface, your lab submission, your contractors, whether you want to do it offline or online. So with Maxgeo, you are able to do that. You can capture your data using datashed 4. Or you can capture your data using Logchief, where the geologists or exploration geologists can actually do it in the field and then synchronize the data, where they have their planning holes, their drilling logs, where they capture everything as it happens, and they synchronize the moment they are connected to the internet. And you in the office as a manager, you're able to get that data, the real-time data. And then we can also, our softwares in datashed 4, you can also import data. Let's say, for instance, we are now implementing a new database solution to your company. You're using Excel or an Access or whatever you'll be using at that time. We're able to actually take that data and try to validate it, work around it, and map it to the correct field and actually import that data. We're able to import your downhole surveys. If they went down Gyro, I'm not sure which survey companies lately, but I know there's Gyro, where you can now get your survey data. We can actually take that data and import it in the database without having to manipulate it. And you can actually get your assay certificate. Every samples that you have sent to the lab, every certificate that was used or any CRM that was used, it has assay certificate. We're able to import that into our datashed 4 so that you're able to do your quality control and quality assurance. And then we have a QAQC, which you can review your assay result. You can have a report which shows you that for a specific project that you're working on, this is the data that you have. This is how many holes that have passed. This is how many samples that have passed, and this is how many samples that have failed. And it'll also show you, because you've set up rules in place. Initially, you set up rules in place to say my holes or my samples will fail if one standard or one blank would fail. So you are able to view that and interactive with your QAQC to be able to tell whether, okay, maybe the resource people should not use this hole because it has failed the QAQC. Then you can actually send it back to the lab and they reassay or reassay it for you, and then you check the results again. We're also able to do your transformation coordinates, your automation, where we can automate your data. Instead of you now, if you know that you have done whole survey that comes every week, we can actually automate that data. So it comes straight into our system. It doesn't have to go through anybody else. You just send an email and we automate it and everything will show in the database. And we have a reporting and sign off where you can have your done whole strip log, your normal reports that you can actually export out of your datashed 4 and do the sign off. And you can actually have complex queries in there where you can just query your data to see how many holes were drilled in 2010, which of those holes were abandoned or completed, and what were the reason. You can even put comments in there. So that's my short presentation on database management. What we've been trying to do, and just to show, is that with technology, it needs to be fit for purpose. The technology that you choose, or whatever geological database management you choose, it should be fit for purpose for what you want to do for your organization, and be able to reach its goals and be able to comply with every standards and regulation that are there in South Africa. With the architecture, we know that a shared technology, it needs to be a shared technology that provides a clear overview of how all related systems work together in their purpose. Like I mentioned, that you can actually connect to Imago or be able to connect to GIS with the data that you have. It's not just a database that's working on its own and you can't connect with other systems. And the capabilities of it, is it capable of living up to the requirements of the data-driven system? Customization, is it secure? How is the performance? Other database, if you need to query data out for the past 5 years, holes for the past 5 years that you have drilled, it might take forever to actually export that data. So is it capable of doing that? How is the performance? Are you able to actually regulate who does what in the database? Is it allowing you to choose which people can actually view which data, which people can actually make changes in the data? And also, is it accessible? Are you able to work in field outside of the office without internet in the field, without having to worry that they will not get the data? And we have that with the Log2, where you can work on site and when you come back to the office and you connect to the Wi-Fi, you are able to synchronize that data, and then everybody will be able to see it. And then all the things would create enablers, and together these components will give you an enabler, somebody who understand the importance of database management and why we need it, and what are the importance of it and the benefits of it within the mining industry. And that's my short presentation on that. I don't know if you guys have any questions.
Thank you very much, Camo. Sorry, I was away from the microphone. Thank you for the comprehensive description of the database management. Is there any question? I have just a curiosity. I just check if there is anything from the ocean, because you came from the university and you went into the mining industry. When did you actually started to work with this management and database? Was it already in your first job, or did you experience different database in different mining companies?
I did. So my first job was in the engineering geology field in Council for Geoscience. So there it was more of mapping on the paper, and then going to GIS, trying to figure out how to do that map. With the database management, I got into the field when I moved to the mines, to South Deep. But I was in the production side of it. So I was more of the data collector. I'll collect the data, but not see what happens to it, not interrogate it. I'll just collect the data, sample it, and then it goes to the lab. So I wouldn't see what happens. So I had a mentor in the mining industry who was like, okay, I see that we've collected the data, but what happens to the data? I know there's the resource side of it, because we all know, but the database management of it is where most geologists, there's that disconnect, because you can have, everybody knows about the production geologists, everybody knows about the resource, but the middle person who actually connects both of them wasn't something that we're very aware of from varsity, because in most varsity courses, database management wasn't really part of it. So I started like trying to figure out where that comes in. So my manager was like, oh no, there is database management where you actually, after you send the data, you can actually analyze and interrogate your data, see how that is. And then that same data is the one that we're going to use in your geological modeling. That's how I started getting into database management and like trying to see what technologies is out there with optimizing your data, managing your data, and if there's any new practices on site. So that's how I got into data management. And from there on, I've been moving in that field.
Yeah, I see it, Camo. I see, because I see how the importance of it, and I see how actually it's not really taught here at varsity, because we give priority to other things. So this is why
Yes.
I was asking you to come here, and I thank you very much. Is there any other question? Turn on the light here. Is there any other question? Please, please, maybe you have to come here. Sorry.
So I want to ask, if you were working both offline, let's say you are drilling and you don't have internet access, and it so happens that someone else at the mine is also working on the same data set that you're working on, and they make edits, and then you go back and you also synchronize your data. What happens? Can you be able to not lose your data because of these two separate events?
So my understanding, Mano can correct me if I'm wrong, is that if you're working on a specific data set or data, let's say whole ID, you checked out that whole ID, you're working on that whole ID, you'll be the only person who will be able to make the changes. And then when you get back on site, you synchronize that whole. I'm not sure whether if somebody else is making the changes, it shouldn't allow them to make the changes because it will show somebody's already working on the whole. Mano, I'm not sure if I'm wrong on that.
Mano, maybe you have to come here. Apologies. I know it's coming to the microphone. Thank you.
It depends on what you're actually using in the field. Some programs will, as Kama said, you will check out a certain whole ID and only you will be able to log against that. But also it's just good management. Your employer will not be sending out extra people to do the same job. It wastes money, it wastes time. So it just depends on who's in charge of the project and what software you're using, what kind of information you're capturing, and all of those.
Yep.
Thank you. I see there is the hand on Carlo. Furi, would you like to unmute yourself and ask a question?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, we do hear you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kamogelo, for the talk. Just a quick question. Seeing that you're on the database side of things, how often are you exposed to scripting and programming languages and things like SQL? And then also your products, I assume that your clients don't necessarily need to be that well scripted or well versed in scripting languages or something like SQL. Thank you very much.
Okay. So on our side, we do use SQL a lot. Because I'm not on the database management, I have to know how to. For instance, if you are sending, let's say we're implementing a new data for you, new database management, and you just give us an Excel sheet and it has assays, it has whole ID, and it has samples, and you need to see that data all in one place. Let's say it's a view. So I would need to know how to create a SQL script where it can actually go and query certain columns or certain values in assays, and then in your sample ID and also in your whole ID. So there is that importance part of you understanding SQL because we are on the background of it, not just the end users. The end users, yes, we will teach you. We have training courses in place for SQL just to understand the basic SQL on how to query your data. But most of the SQL, it will be us in the background who would do it. But it does include more of that as the consultant.
Okay, thank you.
But I'm not yet an expert. Mano is. I'm still learning SQL as I am. So from being a geologist to being a SQL guru is not as easy.
We have another question here in the chat. They are wondering, how do you manage data crash? Or do you
Backups.
Oh, backups. Yeah, there's
Yes.
backups.
It's basically what we're saying. When you have data backup, there's most companies would have SOP in places to say every 2 weeks, please back up your database, So it can crash. But if you have a backup, you're able to restore that and actually be like, okay, this is the data that you're looking into. And you can actually work in the background. I see the IT people maybe will know more on how to now go and check what crashed the whole database. But backups, it's actually how you would manage it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
I'm thinking, yeah, some postgraduate student in the room, that is what they do usually when they write up a chapter or something. Is to
save. Click save every time.
It's somewhere else, not only in your computer, save it somewhere else.
Yep.
I thank you very much, Camo. I thank you, Manon and Rehan, for being here with us and taking the time to explain this all to us. Thank you so much. And maybe we will meet in person, or we will maybe come across each other in a different situation. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
for the opportunity. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.